Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 10 Part 62 based on novel. So let's start. The figure had been seated beside the Pill River for over a month. During this period of time, his body was as still as a rock, and even his breathing had completely disappeared. The temperature of his body was icy, appearing just like a lifeless corpse. This scene caused even Ying Xuanzi's group to feel somewhat bewildered, and even less needed to be said for the ordinary Dao sect's disciples. After all, they had never witnessed such a situation. However, they were ultimately somewhat perceptive, and clearly understood that Lin Dong must not be disturbed. Hence, they sternly prohibited any ordinary disciples from entering the training platform. This 1 month quietly passed amidst the uncertain and worried gazes of the many Dao sect disciples. With the flow of time, everyone gradually began to felt something odd. Some of the sharper individuals could vaguely feel a mighty and vast energy stealthily gathering in the sky above Dao sect. This power was ethereal and without form. However, it caused one to feel an almost solid pressure. Only the strong mental energy cultivators could clearly feel the existence of this energy and were overwhelmed with shock. Because it turned out that this power was actually vast and endless mental energy. The tremendous amount of mental energy caused even the experts, who had come into contact with reincarnation, to feel some fear in their hearts. That power was like an endless ocean. It enveloped the sky above Dao sect, causing countless Dao sect's disciples to feel jittery. The mental energy that pervaded the sky grew increasingly dense day by day. Occasionally, a low and deep rumble of thunder would emerge in the sky. The thunder seemed to contain a destructive ripple that caused one's scalp to turn numb. Ying Xuanzi and the others glanced at the sky before smiling bitterly. After which, their helpless eyes shot towards the human figure, who was seated like a rock beside the Pill River. This power, which even they had difficulty bearing, was clearly related to Lin Dong's mysterious state. However, they did not know how long this would last. After all, the mental energy in the sky was a little overly terrifying. Should it go out of control, the entire Dao sect would likely be reduced to ruins in an instant. Despite being worried, there was clearly little they could do. All that was left was to continue waiting. Ying Xuanzi and the rest did not think that anything unexpected would happen amidst this wait. However, something did happen to Ying Huanhuan during this period. This lass had greatly exhausted herself on the day they destroyed Yuan Gate. She had spent a couple of days recuperating after she returned in order to recover. Inexplicably, however, the cold aura that emanated from within her body in the following month became increasingly dense. Everyone could feel her strength soar wildly as the cold qi within her body grew denser. This rapid rate caused Ying Xuanzi and the others to be rather worried. Such an uncontrolled rise had occurred only after Lin Dong had entered his mysterious state. It continued for half a month before it gradually slowed. The chill now caused one to feel a terrible discomfort. Hence, Ying Huanhuan had secluded herself on the ice lake at the back of a mountain over this period. Even Ying Xuanzi could only endure 10 minutes of the cold qi there before being forced to leave. Ying Huanhuan's transformation made Ying Xuanzi and the rest feel somewhat uneasy. The unease felt by Ying Xiaoxiao was even greater. She wanted to head to the ice lake to guard Ying Huanhuan a couple of times, but she was unable to endure the cold qi. In the end, she was forcibly extracted by Ying Xuanzi. These sudden changes gave Ying Xuanzi a huge headache. However, he was after all the sect master of Dao sect, a steady man who did not panic. He could only seal off the ice lake and prohibit ordinary disciples from approaching. After which, there was not much else that he could do. The only thing left was to wait till Lin Dong awoke and take another look. This wait continued for half a month or so before there was finally some activity. Rumble. The Dao sect disciples continued their daily compulsory lessons and training. However, things were clearly different today. The weather had become rather stifling since morning, and the deep rumbling thunder was far more frequent than usual. The sky had already become dark by afternoon. After which, everyone saw dark clouds surging over in the sky. An endless number of thunderbolts coiled about in the sky like lightning dragons as a frightening natural pressure spread. Bang! Thunderbolts flashed and the entire Dao sect was lit by lightning as if it was daytime. The Yuan power in the area began to flare up. All the strong individuals within Dao sect wore grave expressions as they looked at the violence in the sky. The corners of their eyes twitched slightly. Such a lightning storm would likely turn even a Samsara stage super expert to dust in an instant. The hearts of countless Dao sect trembled with fear as they gazed upon the sky. After which, they hurriedly withdrew to places where they could take shelter. The power of a human appeared exceptionally weak in the face of such a frightening might of the heavens. Rumble. The sound of rumbling thunder grew increasingly hurried. It seemed as though even the dark clouds could not cover the bright lightning. This scene was akin to millions of soldiers about to charge forward. Even the sky and land shook slightly. The thunder seemed to gather and ultimately reach its peak. However, the place strangely became quiet the moment the thunder roared. This silence continued for a mere instant. After which, everyone's pupils shrunk as they watched the thunderclouds in the sky being brutally torn apart. An earth-shaking roar suddenly resounded over the sky while resplendent lightning seemed to conceal all other light in the area. Countless 100,000 feet large thunderbolts charged out from the clouds in the sky like ferocious lightning dragons. After which, they turned into a lightning waterfall that descended from the sky and headed straight for Dao sect. This scene shocked countless Dao sect disciples so much that their complexions turned deathly white. The lightning dragons seemed to fill the sky and engulf the land as they descended. In the short span of several breaths, they had already reached the sky 10,000 feet above Dao sect. At this moment, with the light from the lightning, some Dao sect disciples saw the figure, which had been seated beside the Pill River for almost 2 months, slowly stand up. The figure lifted his head and watched as the thunderbolt swept towards him. His skinny figure appeared exceptionally small in the face of these massive thunderbolts. However, the terror in the hearts of the Dao sect disciples instantly disappeared when they saw this figure. They ultimately believed that as long as this figure existed, their Dao sect would never fall. This was an almost blind faith. Such faith was crazy and irrational, but they never doubted it. Countless lightning dragons started to gather together. As thunder rumbled, the lightning dragons became a surging sea of lightning that brought with it an Armageddon-like power. Lindong lifted his head. The sea of lightning was reflected in his pitch-black eyes. His body moved and directly appeared in the sky. After which, he allowed the frightening lightning sea to envelop him. Gasps erupted from within Dao sect at this moment. However, these gasps quickly stopped. This was because they saw the descending sea of lightning suddenly come to a halt 10,000 feet from Dao sect. At this distance, it was already possible for them to see the destructive power contained within it. "Quick, look!" An exclamation suddenly sounded and countless pairs of eyes shot over. They saw waves suddenly rise from the center of the lightning sea as lightning slowly accumulated. Moments later, it turned into a 10,000 feet large lightning throne. A skinny figure holding a scepter stood on it before taking a seat. At this very moment, the figure was akin to the Emperor of Lightning. All of the terrifying thunderbolts were at his beck and call. The figure on the lightning throne gently waved his scepter, and the Armageddon-like sea of lightning swept downwards. After which, it gradually shrunk in front of countless pairs of eyes. Finally, it turned into a huge thunderbolt river, which was tens of thousands of feet in size, and slowly flowed in the sky above Dao sect. Everyone's eyes involuntarily widened when they saw that the frightening sea of lightning appeared as tame as sheep in Lindong's hands as disbelief filled their faces. After dealing with the frightening lightning sea, the figure slowly stood up from the lightning throne. Subsequently, he gently spread his hands. Bang! The vast and mighty mental energy, which had flowed in the sky above Dao sect for 2 months, abruptly surged downwards in a frantic manner as if it in answer to the call of someone. Finally, it rushed into Lindong's body. Lindong's body was like a bottomless pit as the frightening mental energy poured into him. He did not feel any discomfort. Instead, his face had a faint intoxicated expression on it. Within a short couple of minutes, the vast and mighty mental energy, which had frightened countless people in Dao sect, was completely absorbed by Lindong. When the final bit of mental energy flowed into Lindong's body, warm sunlight came pouring down from the dim sky. In the end, it enveloped the entire Tao sect. Countless pairs of eyes looked towards the sky where a figure quietly hovered. Although he simply stood there, the many experts from Tao sect could not detect his presence no matter how hard they tried to sense him. It was the same as when the fourth seat king had appeared back then. He was clearly there, but they were unable to feel his presence. What powerful mental energy! It is unexpected that Lin Dong's mental energy has already reached such a frightening level. Ying Xuanzi looked at the figure in the sky and let out a soft sigh after a long while. If I am not wrong, Lin Dong's mental energy has likely already advanced into the legendary Supreme Symbol Master level. This fellow is really a genius. The blind elder sighed. He specialized in mental energy and naturally understood just how terrifying Lin Dong's current level was. A Supreme Symbol Master could compete with a reincarnation stage expert. That lightning river possesses extremely pure lightning power. It is extremely useful in tempering one's yuan power and physical body. This act of Lin Dong has blessed our Tao sect. Chen Zhen gazed upon the bright lightning river and involuntarily chuckled. Ying Xuanzi also smiled and nodded. Soon after, however, worry rose in his eyes. It's fortunate that Lin Dong is finally out. Otherwise, we really will not know what to do about Huan Huan. What has happened to Huan Huan? The figure in front of them slowly appeared in a ghost-like fashion after Ying Xuanzi's voice sounded. As Lin Dong looked at the former, he frowned and asked. On a mountain behind Tao sect. A ray of light streaked across the sky before Lin Dong and Ying Xuanzi appeared on a mountain top, which was now emitting a frightening cold aura. Looking past the rich and dense forest, one could see an azure clear ice lake at that spot. Sai, you should go and take a closer look. The cold aura within her body is becoming increasingly terrifying and even I cannot approach her. Ying Xuanzi looked at the distant ice lake, before a painful expression flashed across his eyes. Then, he sighed softly. Lin Dong nodded gently. Without further ado, his body moved before he appeared at the edge of that ice lake. He cast his glance and saw that there was an ice lotus in the middle of the ice lake. Meanwhile, a pretty figure was seated quietly within that ice lotus, while her long icy blue hair flowed down and filled the ice lotus. At the moment, there was a dense chill being emitted from that graceful figure. Meanwhile, that chill was extremely intense and even the surrounding air showed signs of freezing. It was exceedingly overbearing. Lin Dong knitted his brows slightly. Then, he took a step forward before his body appeared in front of the ice lotus in a phantom-like fashion. At the same time, there was a faint black glow undulated on his body, which devoured and took care of the overbearing cold aura that was trying to erode his body. Seated on the ice lotus, Ying Huan had fallen into a deep slumber. Her pretty eyes were tightly shut and her beautiful face was now slightly pale. Occasionally, her delicate figure would tremble and she looked so fragile that it would cause one's heart to ache. Frightening cold aura continuously gushed out from within her body. Lin Dong had sharp eyes and he could tell that as the cold aura continuously surged from within her body, the color of her originally icy blue long hair grew even richer. All of a sudden, Ying Huan's delicate figure trembled intensely. Following which, she subconsciously bit her lips while she knitted her brows tightly. It looked as though she was trying to resist something and there was even a terrified expression on her brows. Lin Dong felt his heart ache when he saw this. His expression turned gloomy immediately as he spoke in his heart, Yang, what is going on? Wasn't she doing fine previously? The strength of the Ice Master appears to be awakening quickly. Yang was silent for a moment before he said. Why? Lin Dong's pupils shrunk slightly before he promptly demanded in a deep voice. There was a reason behind everything. Previously, Ying Huan had been suppressing the strength within her body. Therefore, unless some unforeseen circumstances had occurred, why would there be such a drastic change now? Yang hesitated upon hearing this. Why? Lin Dong once again demanded. Meanwhile, there was an additional trace of anger in his voice. It might be related to the Flame Master. Yang laughed bitterly and said. Flame Master? What has he done to Huan? Lin Dong's expression changed, while fury rose within his eyes. that fellow was indeed up to no good. He might not have done anything purposefully. After all, he is the Flame Master and possesses an aura from the ancient times. Therefore, after he approached Ying Huan, his aura would act as a magnet that would draw the Ice Master's strength, which lies dormant within Ying Huan's body. Yang said. "Why didn't you say so earlier?" Lin Dong asked furiously. "Initially, I thought that Ying Huan would be able to handle it. I never expected something to go wrong so quickly." Yan laughed bitterly and said, "The Flame Master should have known that by approaching Ying Huan, his aura would stir the dormant strength of the Ice Master within her body, am I right?" With an extremely ugly expression, Lin Dong slowly said, "Well, he should have known about this." Yang nodded and said. Lin Dong slowly retracted the fury within his eyes before his face became calm once again. However, Yang, who knew Lin Dong extremely well, knew that the calmer this fellow was, the greater the fury within his heart. Lin Dong extended his hand and gently stroked Ying Huan's bone-chilling icy blue long hair. After which, he suddenly turned around. With a dark and gloomy expression, he rushed off. In the next moment, he directly appeared in the sky above Dao Sect. Then, he surveyed his surroundings, before he locked his eyes onto a mountain that was at a short distance away. Finally, a dark and solemn furious voice resounded across the sky, "Flame Master, come out now." This sudden roar caused everyone in Dao Sect to be startled. After which, they lifted their heads and saw the gloomy-looking Lin Dong, who was now standing in the sky. This was the first time they ever saw Lin Dong lose his temper till this extent. Ying Xuanzi and the rest also hurried over, before they exchanged glances with each other. Clearly, they did not know what was going on. A fiery glow flashed on the distant mountain. After which, a figure appeared directly across Lin Dong in the sky. Subsequently, that figure frowned slightly and asked, "What is it? You know what you have done. Yet, you dare to question me." When he saw the Flame Master's nonchalant attitude, the fury within Lin Dong's dark black eyes grew, before he coldly chuckled. The Flame Master glanced indifferently at the back mountain of Dao Sect, which was now covered with cold aura. Then, an unknown expression flashed across his eyes before he said, "There are some things in this world that you cannot hide from. Right now, you are merely trying to deceive yourself. Aren't you too much of a busybody?" Lin Dong coldly said, "Dao Sect does not welcome you. Leave. I will not go anywhere before she awakens." The Flame Master shook his head and said nonchalantly, "Awaken? Do you think that she will still be herself after she awakens? I want Ying Huan, not the Ice Master." Lin Dong shouted sternly. "You are far too selfish." The Flame Master frowned and said, "Do you know the weight of the burden on her shoulders? The Yimo are still hiding in this world. Furthermore, it is not as if you do not know how powerful they are. If another world war begins, many lives will be lost and we will all need her to rescue us. At that time, if she remains as Ying Huan and everything in this world falls into the hands of the Yimo, do you really believe that the both of you can escape unscathed? She is unable to carry such a heavy burden. If someone must carry it, I will take her place." Lin Dong clenched his hands tightly before he said in a deep voice, "You?" The Flame Master glanced at Lin Dong. There was a faint trace of derision in his eyes as he said, "On what basis? Just because you have obtained the Devouring Master's inheritance? This burden is something that even the Devouring Master himself cannot carry even if he was alive. Therefore, what gives you the right to utter such words? Moreover, if this burden is so easy to carry, do you think that we will need someone like you to do it? Whether I have the qualifications to do so is not up to you to decide." Lin Dong shook his head and he ceased speaking. However, the stubborn glint in his eyes remained unmovable. "What an arrogant brat. Since you dare to make that claim, allow me to try and see if you are qualified." When the Flame Master saw this, he coldly said. Meanwhile, fury rose within his heart. Bang! After he spoke, the sky behind him suddenly became crimson red. After which, he stomped his foot. Immediately, flame-like crimson yuan power swept forward, before they transformed into a large fiery palm that ruthlessly smashed towards Lin Dong. A cold glint flashed across Lin Dong's eyes when he saw the Flame Master's attack. However, he did not budge. Instead, thunder clouds began to gather in the sky above him. After which, a 10,000 feet large thunderbolt came whistling downwards like a lightning dragon before it ruthlessly clashed with that large fiery palm. Bang! A terrifying assault wave spread, and even space itself became somewhat distorted when those two clashed. Though Lin Dong's body was shaking, he did not step back. Instead, a stern expression surged within his black eyes. The Flame Master was indeed powerful. However, Lin Dong's mental energy had advanced to the Supreme Symbol Master level. Together with the fact that his Yuan power cultivation had touched reincarnation, it was clearly impossible for the Flame Master to suppress Lin Dong with his avatar. If you do not leave, I will destroy your avatar. Lin Dong was clearly infuriated by the fact that the Flame Master had attacked him suddenly. Immediately, he waved his sleeve before a glow whistled forward. After which, it swelled rapidly in the sky and eventually turned into an incomparably large ancient formation. Ancient Universe Formation? When the Flame Master saw that ancient formation, his pupils hardened. Clearly, he knew about it. Bang! Mighty Yuan power and mental energy suddenly whistled out from within Lin Dong's body. Then, they transformed into two light pillars before they charged into the ancient universe formation. The formation subsequently rotated before the two energies gradually merged together. Meanwhile, waves of frightening ripples slowly spread. The ripples radiating from the merged energies even caused the Flame Master's pupils to harden. You are skilled indeed. The Flame Master placed both of his hands gently together. Following which, a crimson color swiftly surged within his eyes. After which, his surroundings quickly turned scorching hot, while a bright sun slowly rose from his body. When Ying Xuanzi and many members of Dao sect saw that these two individuals, who typically did not interfere in each other's matter, were fighting, all of them were greatly startled. Wouldn't the two of them end up destroying the entire Dao sect if they fought here? The two people in the sky looked at each other with cold eyes. In the next moment, mighty energy surged as they prepared to fight. Stop! However, a cry suddenly sounded just as the both of them were about to fight. Immediately, cold aura gushed towards them from all directions before a beautiful figure appeared in front of Lin Dong. Then, she spread her arms before she blocked Lin Dong. After which, with some anger in her pretty eyes, she stared at the Flame Master and coldly said, "What are you trying to do?" The Flame Master looked at Ying Huan, who was protecting Lin Dong, before he was slightly startled. Then, he tightened his fist before relaxing. Finally, he turned his head away and said in a faint voice, "Like I said, I will not leave until you awaken." You? Lin Dong gritted his teeth. Ying Huan turned her head. She used her icy cool hand to grab Lin Dong's arm before she softly said, "Can you please calm down first?" Though her voice remained as cold as always, there was also a pleading note to it. Lin Dong looked at her before he finally sighed. After which, the light formation in the sky gradually disappeared before his Yuan power and mental energy returned to his body. A smile emerged on Ying Huan's face when she saw that Lin Dong had stopped. After all, she knew Lin Dong's character extremely well. The latter was usually calm and determined, and he would calmly handle any situation that he encountered. However, as of now, he had lost his usual cool due to anger. This was an extremely rare occurrence and Ying Huan clearly knew why. "Thank you," she softly said. "Why are you saying this?" Lin Dong shook his head. He looked at Ying Huan and said, "Have you suppressed the cold aura within your body? If I don't suppress it, the both of you would have torn the entire Dao sect apart." Ying Huan helplessly said, "Do you really think that I do not know how to control myself?" Lin Dong smiled and said, "Why don't you let me handle this matter?" Ying Huan glanced at Lin Dong before she asked for his opinion. Lin Dong hesitated for a moment before nodding. Ying Huan smiled upon seeing this. She turned her head before she used her pretty icy eyes to look at the Flame Master. After a brief moment, she said, "Flame Master, I know what you are trying to do. Nevertheless, the current me is not the Ice Master that you are acquainted with. Moreover, I don't care about what happens in the future. As of now, I am still Ying Huan Huan. If you want to stay here, please retract your aura. The Flame Master looked at Ying Huan Huan's stern eyes. Promptly, he let out a long sigh and said, You should be aware of the exact situation. The Lightning Master has awoken. Subsequently, the Darkness Master, Chaos Master and the rest will show up one after another. At that time, Ying Huan Huan lowered her pretty eyes and said, Well, it's not happening now, is it? The Flame Master was quiet. Moments later, he seemingly smiled as he continued to stare at Ying Huan Huan's beautiful face. Then, he said, How unexpected. Someone like you who is so abnormally calm and rational would actually end up having such feelings for a man. Although he was smiling, there was a deeper meaning behind his words. That is because I am Ying Huan Huan. Ying Huan Huan softly replied. Perhaps. The Flame Master shook his head. Then, he turned around and left, waving his hand in the process. I will do as you say and try to retract my aura. Following which, after his voice sounded, his body disappeared as he hurried towards a distant mountain. Lin Dong stared in silence at the Flame Master, who was now disappearing into the horizon. After which, he slowly clenched his fist. Ultimately, this was all because he lacked sufficient strength. After all, if he had sufficient strength and was able to shoulder that burden, he could allow her to smile as happily and carefree as before. Moreover, at that time, who would dare to object? A farce had ended in this manner. All the disciples from Dao sect looked at one another, before they turned to glance at the person standing in the sky. Only then, did they finally scatter. Although they did not really understand what was going on, it was likely that the Flame Master must have done something overboard to cause the usually collected Martial Senior Lin Dong to lose his temper. However, they had a simple thought in mind. Regardless of what happened, anyone in Dao sect will always support Lin Dong. The cold aura on your body has not disappeared. You should spend some time quietly training and avoid fighting with others. Standing in the sky, Lin Dong looked at Ying Huan Huan, who was still emitting a cold aura from within her body, before he said. Ying Huan Huan nodded. Promptly, she softly said, However, you must promise me never to lash out at the Flame Master again. Though that is only his avatar, his actual body will definitely come in the future. She was also worried about Lin Dong. After all, she was well aware of the strength of the Flame Master. In a genuine fight, Lin Dong would surely get the short end of the stick. Moreover, the Flame Master represented a group of people, the most terrifying group of individuals even during the ancient times. I was indeed a little reckless this time around. Lin Dong sighed. He was indeed a little reckless this time around. However, when he realized that the Flame Master had quietly awakened the dormant Ice Master's strength within Ying Huan Huan's body, without giving them any prior warnings, he was involuntarily outraged. Moreover, the real reason why he was so upset was because the Flame Master had acted behind his back. After all, he trusted the Flame Master and this was the reason why he allowed the latter to follow them. However, the latter did something sneaky behind his back and his actions had genuinely crossed a line. He knew that the Flame Master and the other ancient masters had grand ambitions and they wanted to protect this world. Meanwhile, Lin Dong also respected them for that. In fact, no one else could match their contributions to this world. From a certain point of view, what they did to Ying Huan Huan was not a mistake. In fact, in their opinion, only after the Ice Master fully awakens would it be possible to save this world. However, Lin Dong did not wish for Ying Huan Huan to become a foreign and icy person because of this. Nonetheless, he also knew that it was the responsibility of the Ice Master. Furthermore, there was no way to distinguish between Ying Huan Huan and the Ice Master. Hence, she had no choice in this matter and there was no way she could avoid this duty as well. Lin Dong was not acting selfishly when he wanted Ying Huan Huan to reject this duty. He only wanted the perfect solution. After all, if he had the ability to shoulder this duty, there wouldn't be a need for Ying Huan Huan to transform. Moreover, this world would also be saved. Even though Lin Dong knew that this method might seem a little naive, he was willing to pay any price to do so. After all, he had experienced numerous life and death situations, and despite suffering numerous injuries along the way, he had slowly walked towards this goal. As such, he hoped that he could gain their acceptance when the time came. Before that, he wanted to try his best to protect her voice and her smile. Ultimately, he was still a mortal man with feelings. When Ying Huan saw the complicated emotions on Lin Dong's face, she descended into silence. Promptly, she used her pretty icy blue eyes to look at the bustling and lively Dao sect. Immediately, she became a little absent-minded. Then, her delicate finger pointed to a distant square before she smilingly said, "Do you still remember? In the whole competition 3 years ago, that was the place where we fought for the very first time. After that, you were ruthlessly spanked by me." Lin Dong smiled and said. A faint flush surfaced on Ying Huan's face. Then, she chided, "At that time, I should have asked every senior and junior from my Sky Hall to beat you up. The seniors and juniors from my desolate hall are not afraid of you." Lin Dong involuntarily laughed. Suddenly, he realized that his mood had improved. Those past memories brought warmth to his heart. "All right, you should go and recuperate first. You should not come out in a state like this." After his mood improved, Lin Dong waved his hand towards Ying Huan and said, "All right." Ying Huan was well aware of her own body's condition. After all, if she did not suppress this cold aura, it would be quite harmful towards the ordinary Dao sect disciples. Therefore, she promptly smiled towards Lin Dong before she waved her small hand and said, "Don't lose your temper again." As of now, her conduct bore some resemblance to the way that fiery young girl acted 3 years ago. Promptly, Lin Dong felt some warmth in his heart. After which, he nodded and sent Ying Huan off with his eyes. Immediately, the latter transformed into a ray of light before she rushed back to the back mountain. The smile on Lin Dong's face finally scattered bit by bit after Ying Huan was gone. Clenching his hands tightly together, the expression in his eyes changed rapidly. It was a long while later before he released a deep sigh. He was able to stop the Flame Master this time around. However, what about the next time? If things truly developed like what the Flame Master said, after his actual body arrived, the Chaos Master, Darkness Master, and the other ancient masters would soon follow behind. At that time, would he still be able to protect Ying Huan? At that time, which ancient master would believe him if he claimed that he could shoulder Ying Huan's burden? Though he was quite powerful now, there was still a huge gap between him and those peak experts from the ancient times like the Flame Master. "Yang, do you think that I can surpass the Ice Master?" Lin Dong felt a little lost as he asked. "Did you think that you would have made it this far 3 years ago?" Yang smiled faintly and said, "However, I lack the confidence that I can protect her after those ancient masters arrive, and I doubt that I will be able to convince them that I am qualified to shoulder her burden." Yang was quiet. The Ice Master was exceptional. In fact, even his owner, the Symbol Ancestor, was full of praises for her. As such, trying to be on par with her was going to be an extremely difficult task. "It is not impossible to convince them to acknowledge you." Yang was quiet for a moment before he suddenly said, "Do you have a way?" Lin Dong hurriedly asked in a startled fashion. "I do. However, I do not know if it will work." Yang paused before continuing. "Moreover, it also depends on someone else." "Who?" "Ling Qingzhu." "Ling Qingzhu?" Lin Dong was startled. Then, he asked in a lost tone, "What has it got to do with her?" "I do not know the specifics. However, I sensed a ripple from her body that only my owner possessed." Yang spoke in a solemn voice. "Symbol Ancestor?" Lin Dong's eyes shrunk. His heart was filled with uncertainty. How was Ling Qingzhu related to the Symbol Ancestor? "I do not know why she would possess a fluctuation that only my owner possessed. However, you can go and ask her yourself," Yang said. Lin Dong frowned before he shook his head. Ultimately, he was doing all this because of Ying Huan. Hence, it was unfair to Ling Qingzhu if he asked her for help. As such, there was no way he could bring himself to ask her. "Forget it, I will think of a way by myself." Lin Dong sighed. It's up to you. However, this is the first time I have ever encountered a situation like this. It is truly a waste to give it up, Yang muttered to himself. Lin Dong shook his head and ignored him. Meanwhile, he felt a little irritated in his heart. After regaining a short moment of peace, various unexpected situations had popped up. If only things would remain as peaceful as before. With these troubling thoughts in mind, Lin Dong slowly descended from the sky. He was just about to leave when a voice was transmitted from a short distance away. Immediately, he lifted his head before he saw Ying Xiaoxiao swiftly walking towards him. Marshal Senior Xiaoxiao. Lin Dong smiled towards Ying Xiaoxiao and said, I am no longer worthy of this form of address from you. Ying Xiaoxiao rolled her eyes at Lin Dong. Given his current strength, he was more than qualified even if he wanted to become the sect master. That's right. I came to tell you that your friends have left for the demon region while you were in a seclusion. However, they set up a spatial formation before they left. Therefore, you will be able to reach the demon region in a couple of days if you wanted to. Little Martin and the rest have returned to the demon region. Lin Dong was startled. However, he quickly nodded. The Eastern Xian region was currently in a peaceful state and they ought to return to the demon region. Moreover, they still had to take care of their 4 Titans palace. Furthermore, given Little Flame's character, it was obvious that the demon region was more suited for him. Moreover, Ying Xiaoxiao suddenly paused before continuing. Previously, Miss Ling Qingzhu led the final batch of members from 9 Heavens Supreme Purity Palace and left Dao Sect. They should be heading back to 9 Heavens Supreme Purity Palace. Has she left? Lin Dong was dumbstruck. Promptly, a complicated emotion appeared in his eyes, while an unknown emotion rose in his heart. The 9 Heavens Supreme Purity Palace's disciples have left one after another during this period of time. At their initial rate, they should have all been gone 1 month ago. However, for some unknown reason, their speed subsequently slowed down. Moreover, Miss Qingzhu remained in Dao Sect for a month and only left with some members recently. Ying Xiaoxiao glanced at Lin Dong with a strange expression before she said. Lin Dong smiled bitterly. He naturally knew what Ying Xiaoxiao was implying. During the past month, he had descended into that bizarre trance. Therefore, the reason why Ling Qingzhu stayed behind was likely because she was worried about him. Now that he had successfully left his seclusion, she had also left quietly. However, her character remained the same as before. Moreover, she was completely different from Ying Huanhuan. The latter did not hide her love or hate, and she was even willing to risk her life to force Ying Xuanzi to show himself in order to protect him back at the unique Devil City. Though it might appear willful, it was in fact her way of expressing her love. However, Ling Qingzhu did not reveal anything. She would keep any emotion she felt deep inside herself, and would never mention it to anyone else. Only those who were close to her could sense the fiery heat encompassed within her icy cold heart. I wanted to ask, what do you plan to do about Huan Huan and Miss Qingzhu? Ying Xiaoxiao stared at Lin Dong and asked. Lin Dong moved his lips but was unable to say anything. Meanwhile, there was a complicated expression on his face and he lacked his usual decisiveness. After all, there was no way he could easily explain such a matter. Ying Xiaoxiao sighed. However, she did not press on. Instead, she said, you should go and send her off. She shouldn't be far. Lin Dong nodded. He was just about to turn around and leave when Ying Xiaoxiao suddenly recalled something. Wait, during these past 2 months, your parents also sent you a message. They want you to do something for them. Do something? Lin Dong was stunned. What would his parents ask him to do? Your parents asked you to head to the northern Xian region and bring Qingtan back once you have the time. Qingtan. Lin Dong's heart involuntarily shook upon hearing that name. Immediately, an exceptionally warm and gentle expression appeared on his face. He wondered how that stubborn little lass, who always gave him a headache, was doing now. When Lin Dong thought of that lively smiling young lady wearing a black dress, holding onto a black sickle 3 years ago, his heart felt warm. It has been 3 years since he last saw her, and he really missed that little lass. I understood. I will bring her back as soon as possible. Lin Dong nodded. Qingtan was the little princess in their family whom both his parents and himself doted on. Therefore, there was no telling how many tears their mother had shed ever since she left home. Since he had returned, he should find the time to head to the northern Xian region. Lin Dong did not linger on after his laughter sounded. He waved his hand towards Ying Xiaoxiao before his body moved. After which, he left Dao sect. Ying Xiaoxiao sighed helplessly as she stared at his departing figure. Dozens of disciples from Nine Heavens Supreme Purity Palace were traveling quietly within the mountain forest outside of Dao sect. A lovely and outstanding lady wearing a white dress was at the front. Meanwhile, there was a veil covering her face. However, her figure, which was outlined by her clothes, was perfect and alluring. Su Ruo was walking behind her. Meanwhile, she occasionally turned around and used her large eyes to look at that increasingly blurry Dao sect. Finally, she involuntarily asked softly, "Senior sister, are we going to leave just like this?" "I?" A faint voice was emitted from under Ling Qingzhu's veil. It seems like there were hardly any emotions in her voice. "At the very least, we should bid goodbye to big brother Lin Dong before leaving," Su Ruo suggested. Ling Qingzhu glanced at her. She seemingly smiled before she spoke in a gentle voice, "Why do we have to care about this?" But senior sister, the reason why you stayed behind in Dao sect during this period of time was because you want to see if he has successfully completed his training," Su Ruo bit her lips and said. Ling Qingzhu's footsteps paused. Following which, the sword scabbard in her hand gently knocked Su Ruo's small head before she said, "If you continue to spew such nonsense, I will confine you when we return." Su Ruo's small head shrunk and she did not dare to speak anymore. She is right. Since I brought all of you back to Dao sect, at the very least, you should come and say goodbye before you leave, am I right? A laughter was suddenly transmitted from the front. Ling Qingzhu's jade-like hand, which was currently holding onto her longsword, immediately stilled. After which, she slowly lifted her head before she saw a skinny figure in front of her, who was now leaning on a large tree at the end of the forest. Meanwhile, that man was looking at her with a smile. A faint light penetrated the forest and shone on his body. That warm sunlight evoked the sensation that one felt when one saw a clear sky after a snowstorm. This video will end here.